Welcome to video 4 of the query series, and the power of queries can be seen when we want to fetch data from more than one data item, and we can use queries instead of record variables. Instead of having many loops with a record variable that is looping through maybe the main item to the last item and all that, then we can basically leverage queries. For instance, if we are to use this first query and place it there, and we call it, all right, so the item ledger query. So when we have the parent data item as the item, for instance, we need to have the item as the parent data item, for instance, and the child data item is this item ledger entry that we already have had.
Hii ni Tech na Msangi ya jishinde.com.
With the data item link will be the item number is item.number. Then here in our item, we can basically say we already have this item number, we already have the quantity here, which is the sum of the quantity, but which field could we need from this item? For instance, maybe the description of the item. It's a field that is not found in the other table, but you can still have item number here, and then you can have the column for the description. What else could we need here? Maybe the base unit of measure or the assembly bill of material, but maybe the base unit of measure or the production bill of material as another field that we need. Production bill of material number, so we need these fields. Then we might be okay. For instance, you need to have the base unit of measure, the production bill of material, and the quantity for each item, which is in the item ledger entry. The quantity can still be there as a flow field, but we can use this example, or maybe, yeah, such an example. You need the quantity. It's still a flow field in the item table, but you're just trying to see how we can be able to. This is not the perfect example, I've just realized, but we can still be able to see the value of this query in terms of fetching records. If we were to do the same with the normal queries, let me create report test query to test our query. Then if we were to do the same with our query, it could be sort of a daunting task if we were to use the record variables, because we need to loop through all the records, and this report is just a processing only. All right, so if we have a trigger, on pre-report, all right, so here, if we have this item as a record, and the item ledger entry as a record also, then we might, if we look at how we fetch the details from the both both records in a record scenario, we'll definitely maybe say item.findSet maybe something, and then repeat until item.next is 0. And maybe we have some preceding filters here, item.reset, item.setRange, and all that. Then here, then we can say another item, ledger entry.setRange. Of course, item ledger entry, we need the item number to be the item.number, and then maybe something like that. Then if item ledger entry.find first, then we need to say, then begin. We can even say maybe we need the item ledger entry to have a certain entry type. And it's a specific entry type that we are targeting. Maybe we need to have the sell or the purchase entry type for this purpose. All right, so we could be having such a query, but what does it really give of us? We can even change this to be the entry type, this field, since we already have the item number on this side, so that the grouping can be done by the entry type. So we need the entry type already. So we have our item, the description, the base unit of measure, and then the entry type. So if we are to use the query, this item ledger query, and we define it the same way here, our query is the item ledger query. So this is the query. Given the same scenario, we can maybe be able to say our filter, okay, the posting date could be that, of course, 2020 to 2024, sort of that. Okay, we don't have a posting date in this item ledger query. I don't know why we are having it here, but okay, let me stop using this algo for GitHub. Item ledger query dot maybe set range, the entry type, all right, maybe set filter, the entry type is not equal to blank. So we don't want this entry type. We want every other entry type that is not that. And then we open the query. So for the query, we need to open it. And this method basically runs the query object to generate a dataset that can be read. We can even choose the number of rows that we want. If it's, we only need to get 2 rows or 5 rows, we can even have that top number of rows. We can set that top number of rows to whichever we want. Anyway, so this is optional. So while query.read, so differently to the way we do the way we get the records, the values from the record variables, it is different from how we fetch from the query. And the query, we use the query dot next. It's supposed to be read. Do begin, not next. This IntelliSense can be confusing. So query.read. So while query.read do begin. So in case you don't need the do begin, you can just get rid of it. If you only have one record there, you can just have do, and then you maybe message out the do here. Okay, and all that. And then you close the query. So we read the query, and this will read the data from a row in the resulting data set. So for a query, we open, and while there is any other row that is being read, then we are able to sort of now execute. Contrary to the record dataset, we loop through using maybe the repeat until, because we loop through the existing records. But in the query, we use the read. And the code involved in performing the similar operation that is combining two different tables, then the query will definitely be faster than the record variable. So let's normalize using queries, and we can be having maybe here our function that takes maybe the item ledger entry query dot quantity for that case, and this is a function that we can be able to generate and have our query give us this information, loop through it, or even pass it as a variable for that particular record. So let me try passing it as a variable, and then is it possible? I've never tried this. Let me see. Are we able to pass a query as a variable? Let me try this. This is interesting. Item ledger query. So we should be able, we can also pass the query, and it will hold the current record that we are trying to access, and we can be able to definitely have the access to the fields that we specified in our query. All right, so that's it for how to be able to access the query as a record variable. I'll see you in the next video, so stay tuned for this.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell so that you don't miss the next one.